My name is Carolyn Delaney. I'm the founder and CEO here at Journey Enterprises. We're a media company on a mission to make recovery from addiction visible because it's important. It saves lives. There are over 26 million of us in recovery, and we want those who are still sick and suffering to know that there's a path for them. There's millions of us here on the other side of active addiction, and that it's probable that people can and do recover. Our videos share personal, intimate stories of what people's journeys were like, going from what it was like to what happened to what it's like now, in an effort to let people know that we're here, we care, and that there's a way out. Visible recovery saves lives, and we want the world to know that. So if you have a story about recovery and would like to share it, please contact me, Carolyn at recovery-journey.com. I hope you enjoy our videos. Have a great day.
My name is Melody Paul, and I'm 40 years old, and the forms of recovery that I have gravitated towards is mostly wellbriety, believe it or not. Wellbriety has helped me to see the things that I needed to see in my culture and my program.
How did you come to know that you had a problem, and how did you find recovery?
I moved to Maine in '98, and I was like 17, and I've always been a good worker, ever since I can remember. I got a job raking blueberries over in the Barrens and in Cherryfield area, over to down east area, and people would party on the weekends, and I was underage. They didn't care, and I was like, okay, I'll drink. It didn't really get bad till my 30s. I was kind of responsible a little bit, and I had a son, and I settled down for about 10 years. But during that, when I was settled down, I started abusing my prescription medication. I stopped the drinking, but I picked up another habit, and that was I started overeating. I was taking Ritalin, and I was prescribed Ritalin, and I was using it wrong. I was prescribed Valium, and I abused it. And then I was prescribed Ambien, and I would take it during the day. I would try to not do it around my son. I'd wait till he went to school, and then I would do it after, when he was in school. That went on for a few years. I ended up, when I didn't have my prescriptions, I would drink. And then the person I was with at the time was prescribed pain pills, so he would give me pain pills. He would share his medication with me, so I shared my medication with him, and that went on for a few years as well. So it's 6 years altogether. And if I didn't have it, I'd try to make connections in town. I made connections real fast. In 2012, I ended up had DHS involvement, and DHS required I had to do a rehab program, and they said that I wouldn't be able to have my son with me unless I did a 12-step. I applied to a few places, then I got into one in Bangor, and I was there for 5.5 months, and I ended up doing really good, and I had felt good again. I enjoyed the classes. I did everything that they asked me to do, and then I left that program. But leaving that program, I didn't have a sponsor. I ended up, once in a while, like once a month, I'd go to a meeting in the area. So I gave up all the anxiety medication, but I still sometimes didn't know how to manage my anxiety. I didn't know what to do. I was like, in a bad relationship and abusive, controlling relationship for 13 years. And I went back to that after rehab, and, you know, to kind of get my family back together, my son and his father. So I went back to that thinking that I was going to be okay again, but really it wasn't okay. So I guess I did that for 3 more years, but I wasn't using substance, I wasn't drinking, but I didn't have a program. I was really kind of depressed inside. I started working 2 jobs so I would avoid being home with my partner. We weren't getting along. So I started being addicted to working. I started working 2 jobs. I ended up relapsing. I ended up taking Valium. He needed a ride one day to the hospital, and he wanted me to be with him for a couple days. And so I went, and I seen the Valium again, and I seen the pain pills again, and it just started off. I ended up taking a lot of his medication. I ended up leaving the relationship and then moving in with this person that was actively using, and then we started actively using again. I started using on a daily basis, drinking or whatever, you know. So I tried heroin for the first time. We did that went on for a couple months, and in the summer of 2016, it was a daily thing. And then one night, I witnessed him having an overdose, and he fell right over, and the paramedics had to come get him, and then they took him to the hospital, and it was so scary. I thought he was gonna stop. At this point, a few months later, we were living together. I just got to this point where I said, well, let me try the needle. Let me do it. I want to see what it feels like. And then I tried it, and I instantly did get hooked that quickly. That one time, and that was a 9-month bender. I pawned almost everything valuable in my apartment. The partner that I'm talking about, this person, he had a sister that was an addict too. So I got a little close to her, and you know, I was just kind of, you know, living this like sick life for 9 straight months. And then one day she called, and she's like, well, can you get me something in Bangor? So I told her, okay, let me help you, right? And I wasn't helping her really. I was actually contributing to something that was going to be way bad. And then the next day, my partner got a phone call, and it was like 6 o'clock. So he answered the phone, and it was his other sister. And she told us that she had had an overdose, and she died. And that was horrible. That was like one of the worst things that I've had to experience in my life. We were still so sick that I got in this zone where I was like, well, let me get something to help you, you know? After that is for 3 weeks, we still continued to use. We didn't care what will happen later. I was in Cherryfield driving to get money. I was driving down east to go get money so I can get drugs. And Charlie called me, and he said that the cops were gonna take him and arrest him for trafficking. So both of us got charged with trafficking. I got arrested after a few hours later, And I ended up seeing him at the Knox County Jail. When that happened, things changed for the both of us. I ended up starting to realize what I needed to do, and I started sobering up. It took about a month to clear my mind. At Knox County, I started to go to Bible study, and I started going to 12-step programs. I started, being by myself in that cell. I started to realize, what I was doing was really wrong, and how I was living for the years I was living like that was wrong. So I did get sentenced to 15 months, and I went to Wyndham for a year. I just started to open up more, and that year was the best. That was the most healing year of my life. I was able to decide on what I really wanted to do, and that was writing. I didn't realize how much I loved to write. I was very disciplined, and I started writing. I wrote the story out, 20-year story. I was like, what am I doing? I can do better than this. I can do better than this. When I get out, I'm going to go to the meetings that they have. I know there's meetings. I'm going to reach out to community. I started reaching out. I went every day for 90 days when I got released. And it's weird because I started liking it. I was volunteering at the Bangor Area Recovery Network.
Sure. Yep.
Yes.
That's a program. So, yep.
Yeah, I was there. I volunteered every Wednesday. And during holidays, I got addicted to exercising and walking and healthy, good stuff. I was able to publish my book. Now my book is out. It's called Savage to Wellness. I have it. And I facilitate a Wellbriety meeting weekly at the barn for over a year now. Over a year, even during COVID, we're doing two Wellbriety meetings. My sponsor has been with me for over 2 years now. I check in with her. I have people in the program that check on me daily just to see how I'm doing. I'm just so grateful. The promises of recovery have been happening to me. My son's come back, and he's living with me now. I have a full-time job. I'm gonna go back to school, hopefully in September 2021 is my goal date. So just a lot of good things, because I chose the recovery road, and I'm a certified recovery coach now, and I'm just very grateful for the program, and I'm grateful for the people that I've met.
My name's Michael Ledger. I'm 37 years old, and I'm in Portland, Maine. I grew up 45 minutes south of Boston, and it's like everywhere, inner cities. There's all the different things you need to expect, like lots of gangs and drugs and crime. But I had a great childhood. But like as a young child, I was a problem child. I would lie, cheat, and steal at a very young age. I believe I was born an alcoholic. Now that I know, what an alcoholic is. So I had trouble in school, hated school. Went to church, hated church. Went to CCD, hated CCD. I started smoking weed at age 12 and never stopped until I was 36. And I never thought I would stop smoking weed, at least. From 12 years old to 20, I went from, all different types of hallucinogenics and ecstasy and acid and mushrooms, and then pills, all different kinds of small opiates and benzos. And then at 20 years old, I'm doing OCs every day. I did them every day for a year before I got sick. And then I was dependent.
Would you define what OC is? Is that OxyContin or oxycodone?
OxyContin, yep. And by 21, I was an IV drug user with heroin. 21 years old, I wasn't drinking and stuff. I was just doing heroin. I did opiates for, a number of years, 10 years. I went to prison for 4 years. Around 2012, I got out, and it just started all up again. There was never really never any recovery in my story up until last year. 18 months before my last month of drinking, when in 2015, I gave up opiates. I kicked methadone cold turkey in jail the second time. And then in 2016, I got arrested again for it was like a drunken fight with someone I thought was my friend. I had to take a probation sentence to stay out of jail. During that 18 months of probation, I couldn't drink because it was an alcohol-related crime. But I could do as much drugs as I wanted to because it wasn't drug related, so I wasn't getting tested for drugs. So this last time, before the 18 months, it was rough. It was real rough. I ended up getting charges added on in the hospital for assaulting corrections officers, and I didn't even remember any of it. I thought that because I put down opiates and learned my lesson, that I could do the same with alcohol, not knowing, that I was an alcoholic. When I started drinking in 2015, I told my mother I was just gonna drink and smoke weed like a normal person, and obviously that doesn't happen. So I started drinking again. It was exactly 30 days. It was day drinking, night drinking. During that 18 months, I got a good job again. A couple of days later, I was supposed to go on my first paid vacation. They asked me where I was. Did I leave the building yet? They were asking me that because they wanted to breathalyze me and get it out of the way, because they knew I was drinking. I left the building so they couldn't breathalyze me, but they said, just to give you a heads up, a failing breathalyzer is 0.02 at work. So during that 30 days, I thought it was a good idea because I found this cocaine powder connect that I didn't have for a long time. So I thought it was a good idea to start shooting cocaine again after not using needles since 2015. I got a whole bunch of cocaine, got a lot of booze, and I went on like a 24-hour run because I knew I was going to detox. And like I could have went to detox. I tried to section myself in Massachusetts. That's what I drank before I went to the ER. And they wouldn't let me section myself. If you say you're suicidal or something, you get a section 12. Section 35 through the state is for substance abuse.
Got it.
And
okay.
they put you away. They put you away for anywhere from 30 to 90 days. That's the easy way to get, started.
Got it.
At a place that you you can't leave, you're locked in. I called the union, and they're on call 24 hours a day. The guy who answered the call, his name's Tom Vitello, and he just celebrated 11 years in recovery. You know, he's a big part of my story. We're still friends. He wanted to be up here for my celebration. He couldn't make it. But he does this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He is, you know, an advocate for union members in recovery, everybody really. He's in a 12-step program in Boston. So I called him and he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the hospital." And he said, "Okay, stay there." They came to me and said, "Okay, you're gonna come into the back and stay here." I had no idea where I was going. I ended up going to Worcester, Mass, to a detox. While I was there, talking to my union representative, Tom, I started getting a little bit of willingness to continue the journey. I always hated the 12-step programs. I always thought, you know, why do I have to do that? You know, why can't I do it another way? Fear ran my life, as you know. Just fearful of not being able to drink anymore. Fearful of losing my job. Fearful of keeping my job. Just fear-based everything. I went to a program in Massachusetts. It's in Ashby, Mass. It's called Spring Hill. I've done Suboxone. I've done Vivitrol. I've done methadone twice. I've done Suboxone twice. I really didn't want to do that. The willingness continued. I wanted to, you know, try it without it, you know? And really, that was terrifying to me. Everyone in that program is in recovery except for the higher ups. I gravitated towards them because they had time in recovery, years. And talking to them one-on-one, it was like, wow, you're just as screwed up as me. I met some really cool people. Some of those people aren't even alive anymore, and this was just last year. I had a spiritual experience there. It was like a culmination of, it was just like a realization, a massive realization. I was asking this kid for advice, and he said, "You want some advice?" He said, you talk too much, and you use that as a defense mechanism. And it wasn't what he said, you know. It was just that I don't think anybody's told me truth before. They were scared. I had this realization of a bunch of different things in my life, and it all hit me at once, and I just broke down. That really, really fueled my recovery. I really wanted to find out why I was the way I was, and they didn't tell you that there. But the people that worked in the program told me of a place I could find that out. So I went to another treatment facility. I stayed there for, I don't even know, 70 days, maybe another couple months. And as soon as I got in there, we opened up the big book. It was like my memoir or something. It was just written about me. Like every page I've done or I've lived, and it was like another spiritual experience. Yeah, so I stood there. I dove into the program. To a 12-step program, and I started doing the work, and it was tough, you know. That's early recovery, you know. I still believe I'm in early recovery. I still feel confused any given day. At the first place I was at, the 28-day program, I cried every single day for no reason. I still had to be evened out on my medication. I had to get evened out on my medication multiple times. I did my 6 and 7, and by the time I left there, I was so much more aware of myself. I'm really grateful that I was able to go to treatment centers, and it was they told me just you need to start taking suggestion, and that's what I did, and that's what I continue to do. I'm open-minded to everything. If it's suggested, I'll go over with my sponsor, and if he thinks it's a good idea, even if I don't think it's a good idea, or I'm not sure, I'm fearful of it, I go do it. I continue to work the steps. I meditate. I try to meditate every day. If I don't, I notice a difference. I sponsor a couple guys now, helping them go through the steps. I actually have an interview Tuesday at Green Mountain for a case manager position, which is kind of crazy. So we'll see how that goes.
One last question before we wrap up. I'm thinking about that guy who is waking up in the hospital room and doesn't know how he got there, or who is, getting thrown into that section of the jail. What would you tell him?
I tell him to do his best to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender means, giving up to change. You're not weak if you surrender. Try to be willing, just a little bit of willingness. I mean, I had the tiniest bit of willingness, and that carried me through my recovery. The other thing that's probably better than surrendering is being honest with yourself and honest with everyone else.